Hey guys, DustyMarcus here. It is time for episode 2 of How Did We Get Here? I left you guys off. I was a freshman in high school, and I remained with the music program right through to high school, which was very interesting. There's sort of a long story that goes along with that. I'm not going to get into that. I ended up dropping class, dropping school, and then coming back, and you guys know how that is. So I kind of got away from playing music during that time. I was sort of just an angry kid, and I got myself into some trouble, started hanging out with the wrong crowd and all that. And then I remember leaving home, and I was living out in the country with a friend of mine, and I picked up the guitar again. His sister had a guitar and she gave it to me along with an amplifier, and the amp was a tube amp, and such an idiot. One of the tubes had blown, and I couldn't find tubes at that time. Everyone had switched over to digital amplifiers, and no one was using tubes anymore, and you couldn't find them. So stupid me, I threw that amp out, and I have regretted it ever since. It was a super nice amp, and all that was wrong with it was there was a blown tube. So my stupidity and my loss. But I did have that guitar, and I started playing that guitar, and I was falling in love with that guitar. I was listening to musicians at that time. I'd sort of gone from listening to uh, 80s stuff, uh, great music. And then after I left home, I was living with some people. They were a little older than me, and they were listening to a lot of sort of 70s stuff. So I kind of got into that. And I kind of got right into, Bob Seger and artists like that. And I started sort of wanting to play those songs. And I loved it. I absolutely loved playing those songs. I became a huge fan of uh, the Cars, which I absolutely loved. I love their style. I love their writing style, and just fantastic. It was a time, when you go from the 80s and into the early 90s, there was a certain thing going on, and I don't know what it was. If I could put my finger on it, if I could bottle it and sell it, I'd be a billionaire by now. Um, so it was all around us. It was this things were changing, things were happening, right? And then in it was 89, the wall dropped between East and West Germany. Uh, like I said, it was a pretty interesting time to be alive. And so I was back into music, but then life happened again, and I ended up on sort of leaving there and living in a small community, and I had kids that came along, and you know, you working, you're just doing your thing, and life kind of has a way of dragging you and pulling you through. So I didn't get back into music for a number of years, and a lot of a lot of things changed. Kids, I've become a lot more responsible than what I was a few years before. Kids will do that to you. It was an interesting time. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up going to college, and I did my computer stuff, and I was hired by a very large computer company right away. And one of the conditions of that employment was that I move to another city, which was about 2 hours away from where I was living before. And I lived there in Windsor, Ontario for about a decade before I came back to London. And then once I was back in London, I jumped right on the music train and I started meeting people, getting involved, and I formed a band called the Survivors with an S, and that ended up not working out as well as I'd hoped. So we ended up forming another band called the Survivors with a Z at the end, or Z at the end. So at that time, we did some really cool stuff. I met someone who was a producer and a musician, and I became very good friends with him, and we're friends to this very day. And he also produced the very first song that I officially released a long time ago. And if you guys look that up, that is on the album a long time ago. And it was mixed and mastered and produced by him. So we had some great fun. My guitar player was an amazing guy. His name was Mike. Uh, Absolutely fantastic guitarist, and it was, the I always say that I surround myself with musicians that are very good at what they do, and it raises me up as a musician as well. So, you know, and I enjoy writing in a band scenario where you sort of bounce ideas off people. I would come in and sit down and say, okay, guys, I wrote a new song, and I'd start to play it, and then, my bass player would get on it and start doing a bass line, and it just everything sort of fits together. You guys are musicians, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, and after a number of years, things just sort of fell apart. And my guitar player, my friend, he passed away. So that went the band just that was it. It was done. And I would form another band just a few years later. I was in a parking lot and I ran into a an old friend who I had gone to school with in grade 9. And so I find out he's a musician, and we get together to play some songs, and we end up with another band. And here we are. The band's name was Decay and the Retribution. If you guys look it up, you will definitely find it. And we we played together for about 10 years, and we didn't really put out songs. We recorded a bunch of sort of sessions, but yeah. So we uh, we had a lot of fun. I'm gonna end it there, guys, because I just keep talking, and I'm so. Join us tomorrow for episode 3. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the evening. We will catch you on the flip side.